Just going over some of the information from the 5 o'clock discussion from the Hurricane Center, and just a couple things stuck out, and a lot of it to me is the wording that is used, and you can go even at home to the National Hurricane Center website, and the discussion is somewhat technical, you know, talking about different elements in the atmosphere that will govern the intensity and the direction. Just a lot of scientific talk there because it is a discussion among meteorologists. But one of the lines in there is really starking. That's just kind of said this could be the worst, hurricane event in memory along the West Coast. I'm gonna print it out and read it. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but you get the idea. This is going to be a big deal for our West Coast, not only along the coast, because we know the storm surge is going to be a huge problem, but the momentum of the storm, even though it's going to be weakening, is going to move right across the peninsula. So this is going to be a storm that'll impact really everybody from where it makes landfall to where it exits the state along the East Coast. I mean, obviously, Daytona, Melbourne, and Cocoa will not have the type of wind or storm surge we get here, because obviously it's bigger and it's moving onshore, but there'll be impacts all the way from our coast all the way to the East Coast as a storm is going to cut across the state. That obviously is different than Helene and Debbie that paralleled our state. These are watches and warnings. We have up these. We get a hurricane warning really for everybody. The entire viewing area has a hurricane warning, and that hurricane warning extends all the way just about to the East Coast, almost, maybe 20 miles to the west of the coast, and includes Orlando. Orlando has a hurricane warning in effect. And then we're talking about the storm surge is going to be a big problem as well. Let's move ahead now. This is the 5 o'clock advisory. Top winds are about 180. I think it maintains intensity tonight into tomorrow morning. There'll be fluctuations. There may be undergoing what we call an eye wall replacement cycle. Yeah, that's a thing. As hurricanes mature, sometimes the eye walls kind of contract and expand. Sometimes one develops, another one goes away. When that process occurs, and they're tough to predict, there's some temporary weakening, and then usually the storm can pick up again in intensity. The storm is being picked up by a trough. The speed is going to increase, and once it starts moving northeast, so by this time tomorrow, even tomorrow morning when you see Dave and Val on Good Day, they'll have a good sense of where the storm is going to go. It'll cut right across the state. This is not a sure thing. This is not a lock that the 3 is going to be right over Tampa Bay at this time. But generally speaking, inside this cone and right here, and that includes our entire area. So we're at a point now with this track that, let's say, boy, the forecasting, the models are kind of off. It didn't really work out. So let's say that happens, it still ends up here and here. That's all us. That's all us. We're not here. We're everywhere in our 10-county viewing area. So that's the problem. We're not in a position where this is going to, pivot and move down to Marco Island or pivot and get up towards Perry again. Anywhere in here's us. So that is really essentially the problem. Now, on the new advisory, they actually upped the storm surge numbers. The problem still is, if the hurricane moves onshore, let's say where that track verifies, it's going to be tough to get these numbers up here. Why? Because here, the wind's blowing this way. It's going to go out to sea. So to have a 5 or 10-foot storm surge with an east wind at 80, 90 miles an hour is tough. There'll be some high water, but generally speaking, in fact, not generally, it is. The highest storm surge will be the point of landfall south. The point of landfall north is usually not a big deal because the wind's going the other way. It's blowing the water out. That's why Tampa Bay is emptied with hurricanes passing south of us. These are bigger numbers now. And this is all going to verify only if the path is kind of like this or like this. If the path is, south of us, these numbers will be tough to verify. So these are not absolute numbers yet. But this is exactly what the Hurricane Center has to do because we're not sure yet exactly where the landfall point is. So all this makes sense, even though probably they'll have to be adjusted. Because we got a ways to go. We just all have to plan for a worst case scenario until we exactly know where that track is locked in. So there's a lot more to talk about. We'll have off and on showers, and the weather goes downhill certainly by Wednesday morning.